Dark Angel, Kurisu. It was but a single heartbeat, yet 5 elites of Element Gathering tier were all slain where they stood. Thus was the baleful might of the red-scaled dragon snake. The young man was frightened to the point that his face drained of all color, pale as paper, and his whole body began to tremble uncontrollably. He was no prodigy of the martial path, and such a scene of fresh blood and death nearly made him retch out his gall. At once, Liu Dong and the others burst into wild, unrestrained laughter. Compared to him, Liu Dong and his group were seasoned wanderers of perilous lands and treacherous grounds. By their hands, no small number of martial artists and demonic beasts had met their end. Hearing their ridiculing laughter, the young man's features twisted, and he pointed at them as he demanded, "You dare to laugh at me? What if we do? Hang, since my servants have all died, then you guys will be responsible for hauling this great serpent back for me," the young man commanded. Liu Dong and the others exchanged looks, all wondering whether something had gone wrong inside this fellow's head. "How dare you? I am the third young master of the Feng clan of Dayuan City, Feng Luo, and my elder brother is Feng Yan, a true disciple of the Hu Yang Academy." The young man screamed. Feng clan. Liu Dong and his group revealed expressions of dread. Though they were all of the younger generation from the great clans of Guo Rocktown, how could they possibly be compared with the great clans of Dayuan City? Those great clans all had mighty warriors of Gushing Spring tier watching over them, and they were certainly no weaker than the Stone Wolf sect. Moreover, this Feng Luo's elder brother was actually a true disciple of Hu Yang Academy. This alone was a fact to make one's scalp go numb. Hu Yang Academy was the gathering ground of all young geniuses of Rain Country, and the top 100 disciples all had a high chance of becoming powerful warriors of the spiritual ocean tier. Not to mention, what were true disciples? True disciples were the top 30 disciples of the academy. For them, cultivating up to spiritual ocean tier was practically guaranteed. To oppose someone who would become a powerful warrior of the spiritual ocean tier in future, who on earth would not feel fear in such a situation? Is this Feng Yan very powerful? Ling Han turned to Lu Yutong and asked. Very powerful. Lu Yutong nodded, her beautiful face turning solemn. I heard that Feng Yan just broke through to Gushing Spring tier 3 years ago, and he was 20 years old at the time. Now, he is already at the peak period of the 3rd layer of Gushing Spring tier, and chances are high that he would advance further in a very short period of time. Additionally, he's already succeeded in forming Saber Chi, and though it's unknown how many flashes he can form, it's definitely not less than 3 flashes. That was a shocking rate of progress. For an ordinary martial artist in Gushing Spring tier, it was already an extraordinary feat to advance 1 layer within 5 years. There were those who spent 10 years and only managed to reach the next period, and for them, they would never be able to breach the towering fence surrounding the 4th layer in their whole lives. Before a martial artist reached Flower Blossom tier, he would only have a lifespan of 100 years. As a result, if he wasted too much time on such a low-level tier like Gushing Spring tier, then his future prospects would naturally be limited. Feng Yan spent 3 years and managed to break through by 3 layers. If he maintained this kind of progression rate, then he'd be able to break through to spiritual ocean tier by the time he's over 30 years old, and possibly by the time he's 60 or 70 years old. He may even be able to advance 1 step further and break through to spiritual pedestal tier. At that moment, he'd deserve to be praised as a royal existence of Rain Country, because the strongest warriors in Rain Country publicly known were only in spiritual pedestal tier. Though there were rumors that there was an ancient freak who was even stronger and was the overseer of Rain Country, who kept the country from falling. With such a calculation, Feng Yan's potential for greatness could be imagined. No wonder Feng Luo was so arrogant. Oh, Ling Han replied with casual indifference. He naturally did not regard Feng Yan as any serious threat. He reached out and patted Lu Yutong's shoulder, smiling as he said, I guarantee that you will become stronger than him. Lu Yutong nodded. She had full confidence in Ling Han and in herself. The cultivation technique she was practicing now was a heaven-grade cultivation technique. and together with her high-level heaven-grade spirit base, she did not lose to anyone in terms of inborn circumstances. Of course, there was no way she could compare to a freak like Ling Han. She did not know that there was still such a thing as immortal-grade spirit base in this world, and had no idea that Ling Han was actually an alchemy emperor. By his side, she could completely become a pill bottle, relax in comfort, and watch as her cultivation level kept climbing. "Did you hear what I said? Quickly haul this red-scaled dragon snake back for me," Feng Luo said, extremely pleased with himself. Based on his past experience, as long as he announced his elder brother's name, the other party would immediately become very obedient. Ling Han shook his head and said, "I despise people like you the most." With steady strides, he walked straight towards Feng Luo. "Big brother Ling, don't be too rash," Liu Dong and his group quickly said. They were truly afraid that Ling Han would do as he had done previously, turning his hands and plunging into a murderous rampage. "Don't worry, I just want to give him a good thrashing," Ling Han said with a smile. After all, Feng Luo only wanted to snatch their possession and had no intention of killing anyone or harboring any other kind of dirty thoughts. Otherwise, Ling Han would definitely not be merciful. You dare!" Feng Luo could not help but step backward. Although they shared the same mother, Feng Yan was a genius of martial arts, while he himself did not have any particularly significant talent in this field. It was as if all the essence had been absorbed by Feng Yan. Feng Luo himself was now only in the 9th layer of body refining tier, and this cultivation level was likely thanks to medicinal pills he had taken. However, he still had not managed to advance further. After all, green spiritual fruits were quite rare. "So what if I dare?" Ling Han lifted his leg and kicked him. Feng Luo immediately howled miserably, and after Ling Han gave him a few solid kicks, Feng Luo's nose ran with blood and his face swelled up. If he saw his own reflection in a mirror, he probably wouldn't recognize himself anymore. He did not even dare to leave any fierce words behind. He simply fled, tail tucked between his legs. Ling Han split open the red-scaled dragon snake and carved out its roughly fist-sized inner core. It was crimson, like burning flames. Liu Dong and his group, driven by curiosity, all gathered close and reached out to touch it. But the instant their hands met it, their expressions changed and they hurriedly retreated, gasping for breath. Only Li Hao did not retreat, but he too had withdrawn his hand at once, as if struck by lightning. The red-scaled dragon snake possesses a thread of dragon blood and can claim to be a king of a tier. It is well capable of suppressing martial artists and demonic beasts of the same cultivation level. Only those who have managed to form qi can resist it, Ling Han explained. If it had not been for this, then Liu Yutong, who had also been in the 9th layer of element gathering tier, wouldn't have been completely at a disadvantage in a head-on clash with the red-scaled dragon snake. It was all because she was suffering under this suppression. But if she and the great serpent battled once more now, Liu Yutong definitely would not have been in such dire straits. This was because she had now managed to form sword qi and thus possessed the preliminary qualifications to battle the great serpent on an even footing. There were rulers of demonic beasts, and there were also rulers of human martial artists. As long as one managed to form qi, they could be considered to have begun their journey on the path towards being a tier's ruler. However, only those who have managed to form heart could proclaim themselves rulers. You guys remove the backbone of this snake. Technically, it can also be considered dragon's bones. The spinal cord is very effective in refining one's physique. Ling Han delegated the tasks to Liu Dong and his group, while he and Liu Yutong once again entered the cavern. He still had to pluck the earth dragon grass. After all, Liu Dong and his group were all very excited. A strong physique meant that defense would also be upgraded. This was a real, solid benefit. They immediately started working in high spirits. Ling Han and Liu Yutong entered the cavern and advanced through the hidden passage. The environment here was very damp, and because the red-scaled dragon snake had been residing here for a very long time, there was a very powerful stench of blood hovering in the air. Thankfully, the passage was not very long, and very quickly, a gigantic cave appeared in a distance ahead. Found it. Ling Han found only one plant in the middle of the cave. The plant only had a single stem, completely without any branches or leaves. The stem was not straight. Instead, it wound and twisted, seeming like a divine dragon that was craning its neck in expectation of soaring towards the heavens. Earth Dragon Grass, translator Dark Angel. Editor, Kurisu Linghan's heart burst with delight. This stalk of Earth Dragon Grass was at the very least over 200 years of age. Not only would it serve as an ingredient for the transcending origin pill, it would also elevate the pill's completed effects. If matters were thus, then even if the other main ingredients he currently held were somewhat lacking in years, this would make up for it. He carefully excavated the Earth Dragon Grass. So long as the main stem remained uninjured, the medicinal potency of the Earth Dragon Grass would not diminish. Moreover, it could be kept for a very, very long time. Congratulations. You are one step closer to the day of Uncle Ling's recovery, Liu Yutong said. She now also knew that Ling Dongxing's spirit base had been crippled. Ling Han's face brimmed with joy. If everything continued as smoothly as it had this time, then within 1 year, or perhaps 2, he could mend Ling Dongxing's spirit base and let him once more tread the road of cultivation. The two of them emerged from the cavern. While Ling Han prepared to begin refining the alchemical pill, Liu Dong and his group were boiling the bones of the red-scaled dragon snake. Apart from the inner core, the bones were the most precious part of that great serpent. This can't be. This guy even knows how to refine pills? When they saw Ling Han produce a very small alchemy furnace, the faces of Liu Dong and his group twitched uncontrollably. He's truly a monster. Yeah, his cultivation realm rises at an inhuman pace, and he's even forged 4 flashes of sword chi. But now he can even refine pills. I really don't know what else there is to say anymore. Forget it. Let's not measure ourselves against a freak. We won't compare anymore. Never again. The 5 of them kept shaking their heads. Even Li Hao, who had managed to forge a flash of saber chi, shook his head like a rattledrum. To compare yourself with a freak, wasn't that simply seeking humiliation? Ling Han's alchemy techniques became a blur before their eyes. Right now, his origin power was plentiful, so there was no need for him to keep swallowing pills during the refining. Furthermore, the eruptive effects of his 5 elements origin nuclei were astonishing, letting him govern the furnace's heat even more steadily and effortlessly than before. After only 1 hour, he halted his hands. The transcending origin pill, complete. There were 13 pills in all. This is the transcending origin pill. Consuming one will let you advance a single layer, Ling Han said. He kept 8 pills for himself and handed the remaining 5 to Liu Dong and his group. In theory, he only needed 2 pills to reach the peak period of the 3rd layer of element gathering tier. But the effects of this transcending origin pill were crafted for single nucleus martial artists. Who knew whether the 5 elements origin nuclei would require double or even more than that amount? Thus, to prevent trouble, he kept an extra 6 pills. Liu Dong and his group voiced no disagreement about Ling Han taking the lion's share of the spoils. Are you joking? How much effort had they truly contributed for this reward? They had only been tasked with capturing a bright wool sheep. Such a simple matter. Who in the world would fail at it? They understood very clearly that Ling Han had bestowed each of them a transcending origin pill because they had indicated the cavern's location to him. This was Ling Han's token of gratitude for their assistance. Otherwise, who would be so lavish as to do such a thing? After all, they weren't that close. 1 pill could allow the consumer to advance 1 layer. If this pill were sold, what kind of staggering, astronomical price would it fetch? Ling Han, Liu Dong, Li Hao, and Zhu Shuiyi immediately took their respective pills and began to digest the effects, while Liu Yutong stood watch over them. Chen Pengju and Zhou Chang could only look on with envy from the side. Fortunately, the transcending origin pill wouldn't sprout wings and fly off. So once they broke through to element gathering tier, they too would be able to use it. Ling Han sat down beside a cluster of bushes to one side. After he swallowed a transcending origin pill, spiritual chi from all directions surged toward him. His 5 elements mixed chaos lotus trembled lightly and began to swallow spiritual chi like a mad thing. His cultivation immediately started to soar. He had already reached the peak period of the 1st layer of element gathering tier, and beneath this vast concentration of spiritual chi, he instantly began to solidify the 2nd origin nucleus. 5 pinpricks of light emerged from nothingness, slowly transforming into 5 rotating nuclei. Then their rotation steadily quickened, and they rapidly swelled in size. It was also during this process that the space within his dantian began to expand in order to hold even more origin power. The size of the space within a martial artist's dantian determined how much origin power that martial artist could store. So it was exceedingly important. For Ling Han, that importance multiplied several times over, because he possessed the 5-element origin nuclei, granting him power that exceeded his true cultivation level. However, the burden it placed upon his origin power storage was naturally immense. He required a dantian space at least several times larger than other martial artists of the same realm. Otherwise, he would become a mere one-trick pony, able to display overwhelming might once, then swiftly falling into exhaustion. Of course, so long as he could seize first place in the Dayuan tournament and obtain the Dark Moon Grass, he would be able to refine the spatial pill. This was something that even heaven-tier powerhouses would envy. For him, who was only at element gathering tier, how many times would the spatial pill expand the space within his dantian? The issue of limited origin power storage would, in that case, be resolved. Here, the magnificence of an immortal grade spirit base was fully revealed. The spiritual chi absorbed by his 5 elements mixed Chaos Lotus was indescribably abundant, and the transcending origin pill spurred the rapid growth of his origin nuclei, letting his cultivation level climb like madness. Second layer of element gathering tier, early, middle, late peak period. The speed of his breakthrough was enough to make one's hair stand on end. Ling Han nodded to himself. Although his origin nuclei were equivalent to 5 times a normal person's origin nucleus, they did not consume any additional medicinal efficacy. Thinking it over, this was only natural. Though his origin nuclei were 5-fold a normal person's, he still possessed the immortal grade spirit base. How swiftly could he absorb spiritual chi? An immortal grade spirit base was originally synonymous with terrifying cultivation speed, so how could it possibly become a shackle upon him? At this moment, the medicinal effects of the first transcending origin pill were completely exhausted. Ling Han opened his eyes and at once felt a fierce hunger. It seemed that, without realizing it, he had cultivated for an entire day and night. On the other side, Liu Dong and the other 2 were also nearly finished with their cultivation. Their faces all brimmed with exhilaration, though each had reached different stages. Liu Dong and Zhu Shuiyi had reached the peak period of the first layer of element gathering tier, while Li Hao had reached the early period of the second layer. Their innate talents differed, thus the results of digesting the transcending origin pill's medicinal effects also differed. Ling Han was somewhat optimistic about Li Hao. To be able to form saber chi at this age was proof of remarkable potential, and reality had already proven his talent. Ling Han decided to spend some time and effort to foster this man. Perhaps a Saber King would one day emerge because of his decision. At this time, the bones of the red-scaled dragon snake were also finished simmering, and their essence had already merged into the soup. It was golden in color, and it released an uncanny fragrance. This is extremely nourishing. Come, 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 let's all have ourselves a grand feast. Ling Han gathered the others and began distributing the soup among them. They had also roasted the snake flesh, and although its effects were far inferior to those of the snake bones, it would at least fill their bellies. The 7 of them began to eat without restraint. Although the red-scaled dragon snake was not of high grade, still, kings of demonic beasts were not commonly sold in the market. Even Lu Yutong had only eaten such a delicacy twice. If even she, a princess of a great clan, was so, then Liu Dong and his group were naturally even more eager for such a rare meal. Before long, they had drained the entire pot of soup until not a drop remained. Their stomachs all felt extremely full and bloated, as if one more bite would make them burst. This was only natural. The marrow of the red-scaled dragon snake's bones was akin to an immensely nourishing medicine. They felt this way because they had taken in far too much nutrition. The 7 of them quickly sat down cross-legged and began to digest this immensely nourishing food. It could not help them advance their cultivation realm, but it could still strengthen their physiques. It was still a tremendous benefit for them. Ling Han circulated the indestructible heaven scroll, drawing the medicinal effects of everything he had consumed into every part of his body. A golden light actually began to flicker from him. However, the glow was exceedingly faint. If you didn't pay attention, you would miss it entirely. Excellent, he thought to himself. The indestructible heaven scroll could allow him to absorb completely every benefit from what he had consumed without wasting a single drop. It was common knowledge that the food one ate could not possibly be absorbed in full by the body, especially with this kind of extremely nourishing food. That was because the medicinal effects were too fierce to be digested within a short span. Yet after 1 or 2 days, by the body's natural processes, the nutrition would be expelled. What a tremendous waste that would be. After I have finished digesting it, I'll definitely be able to cultivate the body of the dead tree from the dead tree tier.